Greetings from Woods Chapel United Methodist Church, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this message. We invite you to worship with us. Our Sunday worship times are 8 a.m., 9:05 a.m., 10:10 a.m., and 11:15 a.m. We're located off Highway 291 between Woods Chapel Road and Lakewood Boulevard in Lee Summit, Missouri. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach us at 816-795-8848, extension 321. We hope you find this message meaningful and relevant in your daily life.
If friendships are so important, why are they so difficult for us? We're so doggone busy. Our culture does not lend itself well to friendship. 100 years ago, when we didn't have such a consumer society, people sat on their front porches at night and visited. Now we are so busy making money and buying things, going in debt or saving to get something. It's all about collecting stuff. And that doesn't leave a lot of time for friendship, and it's not very good for our marriages. I want to remind you today that when you have a friend, you're alive. And the loneliest days of a person's life is when they feel they've lost their friends. And so today I want to celebrate friendship. And I want to celebrate this awesome gift from God that we have. And I want you to remember with me and think about how wonderful it is. Friendship has been defined many ways. Friends are people with whom you dare to be yourself. Your soul can be naked with them. They ask you to put on nothing, only to be what you are. What a gift that is. A small boy defined friendship as a friend is someone who knows everything about you but likes you just the same. Aristotle said, and this is very interesting, friendship is a single soul dwelling in two bodies. And I take that thought and I stretch it out a little bit, and I think about how the scripture says that we're created in God's image, that there's something inside of us that bears the mark of our Creator. And when we see one another, maybe that's the connection that we feel. That as Christian people come to know one another and care about one another, there is a soul-to-soul bonding that is absolutely awesome. There are lots of biblical examples of friendship. Abraham and Lot, Ruth and Naomi, David and Jonathan, Daniel and his three companions. Remember the guys in the fiery furnace? What were their names? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like they had baby books back there, and the moms picked some really obscure names, I guess. Jesus and his disciples, Mary and Martha and Lazarus, Paul and Silas, Paul and Barnabas, Paul and his friends who made tents with him, Priscilla and Aquila. And all of us must remember the words of Jesus in the Gospel of John that the church has taken on as words directly to them, where Jesus tells his disciples, I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. Often overlooked, one of the greatest gifts that God gives to us is the opportunity in this life to have a friend. Life is about relationships. You know, they say if you don't hold a baby, that they get what they call a failure to thrive. We were watching some home movies the other day, and Jenny was about 1.5 years, and she would follow you through the house going, hold you me, hold you me, hold you me. Right? Hold me. Pick me up. Let me feel the warmth of your love. Something about this relationship tells me that I'm okay. Friends are good for you. You can tell them your secrets. And let me just pause for a minute and say, if you have friends that are not good for you, consider making new friends. You have a right Now, I think you should minister to some people that drag you down. Okay? But you have a right to be in relationships with people that are good for you. And that is something that a friend brings to the table. A friend helps me be a better person. A friend calls me to account when need be. A friend helps me to see the good. A friend reminds me of all those simple things that I knew but just forgot. A writer described the significance of friendship, and listen carefully, though I'm reading to you. The human journey is so short. We no sooner realize that we are here than it's already time for us to be leaving. The brevity of life gives a subconscious urgency to our desire to know ourselves. He's saying life is short. We're trying to figure out who we are. Dostoevsky said that one of the greatest tragedies in life is that so many people live their lives without ever finding themselves in themselves. Perhaps this is what a friendship gives us. The real mirror of your life and soul is seen in a true friend. A friend helps you glimpse who you really are and what you are doing here. That's one of the things I love about coming to this church. When we get together like this, or in small groups, or at the coffee bar, we remind each other that there is something bigger than my human agenda. There's something greater than my worries. And we call ourselves to focus on a purpose in life that goes beyond the natural human short-sightedness that seems to capture so much of our minds. All right, where do friendships come from? If a man would have friends, if a woman would have friends, they must show themselves to be friendly. That means it's not fair for you to complain that you don't have any friends if you haven't gone out of your way to try to make some. A few years ago, I went to visit another church while I was on vacation, and I purposely just kind of hugged the wall. And back then I had hair and the kids were little, and we were kind of a cute family. But we were just trying to stay out of the way, and not a person greeted us. And this wasn't a very big church. And we went in, we had worship, and we left. And on the way home, I thought, well, no one greeted us. But you know what? I purposely put us in a position of withdrawal. Okay? It's not fair to put yourself in a withdrawn position and then complain that no one greeted you. I talk to people every now and then that come to this church, and they go, no one spoke to me. I didn't meet anyone. I'm not getting to know anyone. And I ask them, have you introduced yourself to anyone? Are you wearing your name tag? How many of you have a name tag? How many of you are wearing it? It is such a blessing when there's someone you want to talk to, and if you're not sure of their name and you see it, Jim, you just glance down for a minute and you catch it. Yeah? If a man or woman would have friends, they must show themselves to be friendly. You must go out of your way to initiate a relationship. And just think about that for a minute. If you want to have a friend, if you want to be friendly, can you hear that? Can you feel that goodness inside that says, I want to be friends with Sandy Getty? Well, people respond to that. They see the goodness. They see the love. They see the desire. If you want to have friends, you have to make the effort. It is not fair for you to say, God, I have no friends. Pray that I get some friends. No, that's not in the Bible, but in this case, I think it's true. God helps those who help themselves. You've got to step out and introduce yourself to people and spend some time with them. There is a woman in our congregation who, years ago, being single, she said to me, I see this man a couple of times a week, and I would love to get to know him and maybe go on a date, but I'm afraid to ask, right? And I say, well, so what? You're just going to watch forever and nothing will come of this? Well, maybe he's married. Well, you'll find that out, won't you? So just go introduce yourself. And she did. And today they're married. If a man would have friends, he must show himself to be friendly. If you're lonely, think about somebody that you see in this church that you like. And call them up and say, Brian, I just wondered if you want to have lunch sometime. I just want to get together and hang around. How many of you have time in your schedule to have lunch with somebody? Raise your hands up. You could have lunch? Okay. Relationships are built and maintained on time invested. And one of the true crimes of our world is the number of people that I know that I would love to know better, but we don't have time to spend the time, or we choose not to spend the time. But don't you know, if a relationship is going to grow, you have to spend the time. An old Chinese proverb says that the 5th cup of tea is best among friends. What? What could that mean? Well, it means that they brewed tea over bare tea leaves. So here's the cup, and they pour in the hot water, and there's no tea bag to dip. You just have to, the leaves flavor the tea. And the first cup of tea happens pretty quickly because the leaves are strong. The second cup of tea takes longer. And by the time you get to the 5th cup of tea, you're waiting. And what happens while you're waiting? You're just spending time with your friend. Sometimes it's not even great, profound discussion. Sometimes it's not a great revealing that's taking place. It is just spending the time being in the presence of someone that you care about. That is an awesome gift from God. If we want our friendships to grow, we have to spend time with one another. We value friendship because friends carry us through the difficult times. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born of adversity. What does that mean? It means I didn't know what kind of friends we were until I was hurting and you stepped forward. Years ago, when I first came to this church, it was about 6 months I'd been here, and most of what was going on in my heart, besides worrying about what was going on at the church, was grieving the fact that I wasn't at Princeton anymore and the people that I'd left behind. And I wondered if I was making friends. And when we found out my mom was sick, I will never forget this. Russ Klein came to see me. And he sat me down and he said, "We love you. We are your family. We are going to be with you through this, through thick and thin." And I was so grateful. And I realized in that moment that I was making friends. But sometimes it takes those moments of pain for someone to step out and put their arm around you that turns a corner in how you feel about them. Jackie Robinson started in the big leagues. Every stadium he went to, boos and jeers. The fans treated him terrible. One day at a game in Brooklyn, he made an error, and the fans are booing him, his own fans, his own town. And as the story goes, Pee Wee Reese walks over and puts his arm around him and just stares down the crowd. And the boos stop and the jeering stop, and a man makes a statement to a problem that a human heart, that a human relationship is important. Jackie Robinson said that moment saved his career. It's funny when you're on renewal leave and people call you up. "Hey, what are you doing today?" Got a call last week at 11:30. Somebody says, what are you doing for lunch? Tuna sandwich, maybe, I don't know. Well, let's meet at Patty's. So I meet this person. And this is the value of a friend. Guy's telling me a story, a heart-aching story. And his eyes are filled with tears. And my eyes are filled with tears. Empathy is a spiritual gift. And it's something that we get from our dearest friends. Friends tell us that we matter. Earlier this year when softball started, one of the coaches called up and said, "We want you to play on our team," and I laughed. Not for my ability. We want you to play on our team. We want you to play on our team. What's the message? You matter to us. My wife has a group of friends from her previous job, and they get together 3 or 4 times a year. And they had this deal all scheduled for a few weeks out. And turns out she's going to be out of town. They said to her, "We're not meeting without you." Friends tell us that we matter. They remind us that life is worth living. All the simple things that we so easily forget. Friends remind us that we matter. So I want to ask you a question today. Do you have room in your life for one more friend? Do you have room in your life for one more friend? If you do, I want you to raise your hand. Real tall. Just hold it up there and keep it up there. Now look around the room a little bit. Okay, you know what this tells me? Okay, there are a few of you that are like booked solid. But most of the people that are here have time for a little bit more love. And I just want to tell you, man, this is how it works. Have you been seeing Tony? And being going, I want to get to know Tony. I just go up to him after church and say, "Hey, Tony, I'm Jeff." And just talk to him. Hang around the coffee bar a little bit longer. We can build another parking lot if you stay. If there's somebody in this room that you have a feeling that you would like to get to know better, call them up. Call them up. If a man would have friends, he must show himself to be friendly. Relationships, at the end of the day, are the most valuable thing that we have. No car, no house, no wardrobe solves it. Only relationships fill our heart. Today I invite you to celebrate friendship with me and to show yourself to be friendly.